Are you looking for a meaningful gift this holiday season? Enough As I Grow is a 365-day guided journal designed to help anyone on a journey of self-discovery. With thoughtful daily prompts, it gently guides you through reflection, clarity, and personal growth one day at a time. Whether you're working through old patterns, wanting to understand your relationships better, or just craving a deeper connection to yourself, this journal is a beautiful companion for the year ahead. It's the perfect stocking stuffer or gift for someone who's ready to grow, heal, and show up more fully in their life. Or for yourself if you're ready to turn the page on a new chapter. And it comes in a variety of beautiful cover designs on Amazon, so you can pick the one that best suits your style. I'll drop the link in the show notes. Go take a look and consider gifting one to someone that you love or to yourself. And now let's get to today's episode. Have you ever left a conversation feeling completely drained, like your energy just got quietly stolen? Maybe it's that one friend who always needs rescuing, or a coworker who leaves you emotionally wiped out after every chat. We all have people in our lives who can feel a little exhausting at times. In today's episode, we're talking about what my guest Daniel Ratner calls emotional vampires, the people who suck your happiness dry without even realizing it. Daniel's a relationship coach and author who helps people identify these draining patterns, set boundaries that actually stick, and reclaim their peace of mind. This conversation is equal parts funny, relatable, and wildly practical because Daniel doesn't just name the problem, he's going to be giving you some tools to protect your emotional energy starting today. Think of it as your metaphorical garlic necklace, minus the smell. Welcome to the Codependent Doctor, a podcast where we unpack the messy, beautiful journey of healing from codependency. If you're burned out from people-pleasing, stuck in unhealthy patterns, or just tired of putting yourself last, you're in the right place. I'm Dr. Angela Downey, a family doctor and fellow codependent, and I'm here to help you reconnect to your authentic self, one honest conversation at a time. Here we go. Hello to all my wonderful podcast listeners, and welcome to the Codependent Doctor podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Angela Downey, a family doctor and fellow codependent, here to help us untangle our patterns, heal our hearts, and reclaim our peace. For today's episode, we have a guest with us. Daniel Ratner is a relationship coach, speaker, and author helping people build healthier connections by recognizing draining patterns and setting stronger boundaries. A former entrepreneur turned personal growth expert, he is the author of Infinite Marriage and the 10 Secrets to a Passionate Marriage with his upcoming book, Emotional Vampires, teaching readers how to protect their happiness from toxic people. Through his coaching, books, and public talks, Daniel provides clear, practical tools for improving self-esteem, cultivating keepers, and creating relationships that fuel joy. Welcome, Daniel. I'm so glad to have you join us today. How are you doing?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on.
No, I've been looking forward to this conversation for a while since you reached out to me, so I'm glad that we're finally getting to touch base.
Okay.
Daniel, one of the traditions on my show is that we discuss what we're grateful for, because when we stop and think about what we're grateful for, it helps our brains focus on what's working instead of what's missing or what's broken. So I'd like to ask you if there's anything that you're especially grateful for today.
I'm grateful for clarity, and I'm grateful for my wife and children. Really, I'm very blessed to have an amazing family, and I think it all comes from having clarity in what you want in your life and how to understand relationships and how to understand people, and that I wasn't given such a large ego, so I don't have to be right about everything, but I understand relationships. That's one of my gifts that God gave me.
That's amazing, and you get to use that every day, and I'm glad
every
that you're
day of my life.
Live your life doing what you love.
Yeah.
I was trying to think of something I was grateful for today, and my eyes set on this beautiful bouquet of flowers that's sitting on my countertop. So my partner gave me a bouquet of flowers, and I was just grateful that I had somebody in my life who cared about making things beautiful for me. So maybe we can start by having you tell people who you are and how you became to be a relationship coach.
I just got married like most people do, and most people have no idea what they're doing to get married. They spend more time learning to get a driver's license than they do understand what it means to be in a relationship. So I started taking classes from different teachers, and I was blown away by how much people don't know. And so I started teaching, and one idea led to another, and I started teaching classes on dating and marriage. And then it kind of morphed into self-esteem, and it also morphed into parenting and also how we manage relationships between our friends and our family. And that's my new book, Emotional Vampires. And I have a lot of very unique ideas that I think that resonate with people. I have a passion is to build relationships that last a lifetime. Because you take 100 marriages in the world today, how many get divorced?
How many get divorced? And
Yeah.
maybe the ones that don't get divorced, some of them maybe aren't getting along so well.
Well, I would say, but let's say half get divorced, or the other half, how many are in passionate, loving relationships? And it's ridiculous because no one knows what they're doing when they get married. They have no idea, and that's what I teach. I teach what the women need, and I teach what the men need, and I teach how to keep that relationship, as I say, hot.
Right. To keep things going.
Yeah,
So you mentioned emotional vampire.
yeah.
What is that?
So emotional vampires are people in our life that drain us of energy. I have about 12 different categories that I came up with. Some of them are very tame, like the drama queen, or it could be queen king also, obviously. And some can be dangerous, like the narcissist. And you have people like nonstop talkers and the overly dependent and the border crossers and the projectors. And then you have the big one, which is brothers, sisters, parents, and in-laws that can drain you of energy, and you have no choice. And the purpose of the book is to go through and I include teenagers and terrible twos in that also, because they can drain you if you have children.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I did is I go through the book and I do a friend audit, which means most of our friends that we have in our life are there because of circumstance or an event. Not that we really chose them. We went to school with them, they grew up with them, our parents are friends. And as you get older and, out of your 20s and 30s and your 40s and 50s, you start being more careful about who you have in your life because you learn that, wait a second, that person drains me of energy. I don't need so many friends. In your 20s, you go to college, everyone's your friend. They're not really your friends. They're really just acquaintances. And so the book goes really into depths of what it means to be a real friend. And then if you don't have to have them in your life, you have to control your happiness because no one else can help you. No one else can affect your happiness except yourself. And so you have to put a fence around your happiness, keep people out that drain you, and keep people in that make you happy. And one of the main purposes of the book, when I write a book, I give the problem and I give the answer. And the answer is that we want to find the keepers in our life. This is the end of the book. It's about keepers is an acronym, and you get rid of 2 E's. And you get rid of envy and ego because you don't need them in your life. Anyone who has envy is never happy with what they have in life. They don't like that job, that house, that car, that body, that wife, that husband, whatever it is. They want something better, and they're never happy. And then ego will destroy relationships. Ego, as I say, your ego is not your amigo. It's not your friend. We have to have an ego in order to survive. But when it gets to be too large and you think you control the world, and narcissists have large egos also, even though it's not real. It's all make-believe. It destroys relationships. And you're left with 4 letters, KPER, and they stand for kind, peaceful, empathetic, and respectful. And if you can find people like that in your life, not only can you marry them, but you can also have friends like that. And if you have friends that don't fulfill those 4 things, maybe they shouldn't be your friends in life. And empathetic people are the great people to have because they are able to open up. Actually, one of the other categories of emotional vampires, 2 other categories are emotional constipation. These are people who you marry, and they probably fit into the other category as socially awkward. And you marry them, you can get along with them, they're fine. But after 5-10 years of living with them, you as a spouse, you need someone to open up to. You need someone to understand your feelings and be able to listen to you and not just like, You need someone to feel your pain. And if you have someone that's not sharing their feelings or not accepting your feelings, you can stay married, but it's not a very passionate relationship.
No. And it's not a lot of fun, right? It feels empty and
not only
to
that,
not be able to communicate with your spouse.
No, it's horrible because a relationship is based on, as I call the pies. And that stands for physical, intellectual, emotional, and spiritual. It's the 4 letters, PIES. And when there's a physical problem in a relationship, it's not physical, it's emotional. So I teach men how to make that emotional connection to their spouses or their girlfriends so they can have a great physical relationship. Mm-hmm. They all go hand in hand.
How can you tell if you've got an emotional vampire in your life?
Well, we all do. We all do. Like I said, some are okay. Like I like being drama adjacent. I like people who are drama queens. I just, I'm not married to one, thank God, but like I can hang out with them just for a short period of time.
Yeah.
So there's a chapter called Are You an Emotional Vampire? And I go through different questions that ask, like, for example, do you have a hard time keeping relationships? Do people zone out when you're talking to them? Do you have a hard time keeping appointments? Like different questions that go into like, if you're an emotional vampire. And if someone says, I have no emotional vampires in my life, they're probably one. And
They're probably, interesting.
they're probably way, because everyone has them. And some of them you have to have, for example, your boss or coworker or your family member. And so the book is based on how to make relationships healthy that you have to have in your life, especially with your parents and your brothers and sisters.
Yeah, no, it's interesting how you say that if you don't have any of these, then you're probably an emotional vampire. It reminds me of someone saying, I'm like, am I a narcissist? And they're like, if you're asking if you're a narcissist, you're not a narcissist.
Yeah. It's funny. Some guy asked me this week when I was coaching all these people, and it was a singles event. And so one guy, am I a narcissist? I'm like, you're probably not, but you can have narcissist tendencies and not be a full-blown narcissist. Right. Mm-hmm. I probably went through periods of life in my 20s when I was arrogant and ego, and I probably had some narcissist tendencies. But now I recognize all these things, and I know I'm not a narcissist, but there are. And I have what I call my NADAR. It's my narcissist radar app right now. When I meet men and women who have been divorced in their 40s and 50s and are very, very charismatic, I have my radar out because I'm like, narcissists are very charismatic people.
Yeah. Why do you think a lot of us stay in these relationships that are draining us for a lot longer than we should be?
Well, because number one, we don't know how to manage them. The big mistake that we made was getting into those relationships without knowledge. And that's why I try to teach people how to understand. I have a list of questions that you have to ask before you get married. And I also have a worksheet in my Sunscreen Love book, like how to find out who's good for you in a relationship. A common theme in the world today is that people in the non-religious worlds, people will meet in their 20s and they start dating and they don't know why they're dating and they're cute and some guy asks them out and whatever. And they start dating, they fall into a physical relationship. They confuse infatuation with love because they don't really know what love is. Mm-hmm. And they're comfortable and they date 4 or 5 years. Oh, you're single, I'm single. I like kids, you want kids. And they get married and they wonder why 10 years later they have a relationship. Because when they were dating, they weren't dating for marriage. They were dating for no absolute reason whatsoever. And this is why I clarify when I teach my students, if you're dating because you want a guy to take you to the movies, great. Clarify, but don't confuse that with the guy who should be the father of your children. Just because you like splitting an appetizer with him doesn't mean you should be splitting your DNA with him, right? And people have no idea, so they fall into these relationships and they all fall apart.
What is it you should be looking for?
Besides your keepers, you kind, peaceful, empathetic, and respectful, emotionally healthy people are the most important. That's the most important aspect. If someone is emotionally healthy. And you can learn a lot by the family. One red flag automatically goes up when there's a divorce. It doesn't mean you can't be in a passionate relationship. It just means there's some issues that have to be dealt with. When there's dysfunction or abuse, it's not a good sign. Things like this can carry over from generation to generation. And as I teach, if you want your kids to have a great marriage, you have to show them what a great marriage is. That's where kids learn from. It's not always the case, obviously, but it's a good start.
So there's a lot of people in the population who grew up in, I don't know, I'll call it a dysfunctional household where healthy marriage and communication wasn't emulated. Maybe there was some abuse. Maybe there was alcoholism. So a lot of people come from these households that just aren't great, that fall outside of this definition you're giving. But that obviously that does not mean that 3/4 of the population shouldn't be getting married or shouldn't be. Yeah.
So what it means is that recognizing the fact that you came from these backgrounds and actually understanding that you need to have a little bit of counseling in order to be in a relationship. I think what happens, from divorce is that the injury that's internal. Parents who get divorced will say, "Oh, our children are much better off getting divorced," and they might be. But what they won't say is our children are internally injured and going to have counseling in order to have a great relationship. They can. because there's a trust issue, and that usually doesn't come out. It doesn't come out when you're 22 years old. It comes out when you're 42 years old. You've been married, and suddenly you close up emotionally to your husband or wife, and it causes a downfall in the relationship. Next thing you know, you're not sleeping together 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. Next thing you know, it's been 6 months, and so because of that, she stops respecting her husband. He stops giving her attention and affection. Next thing, the thing falls apart. It's amazing. The average Fortune 500 company in America spends $150 million a month on consultants. Why? Because it helps their bottom line. When do people who are married get consultants? When things are falling apart. And I really believe that everyone should have a coach, or in my community, people have rabbis and rebbitzins that they consult with when they're getting married, so they know how to manage the friction. Which every relationship is going to go through friction or turbulence. If you don't know how to manage it, if you don't know how to manage your ego, you're going to have a hard time.
This episode includes a paid partnership with BetterHelp. 3 years ago, I hit a wall. I was so burnt out that I walked away from my family practice. I thought I hated it and might never go back. But what I really needed was to face my people-pleasing, the chronic guilt, and the fear of conflict that had been weighing me down since childhood. It took a lot of therapy to work through those roots, but because of that, I'm able to come into medicine in a way that I actually enjoy again. That's why I believe that therapy is crucial. Not just when you're in a crisis, but for staying grounded and being the best version of yourself. I've been working with a credentialed therapist through BetterHelp, and it's been such a supportive part of my routine. After each session, I feel clearer and stronger. BetterHelp makes starting therapy easier. You fill out a short questionnaire and get matched with a therapist quickly. And if it doesn't feel like the right fit, you can switch anytime at no extra cost. With over 7,000 reviews and a 4.3 rating on Trustpilot, it's a platform that you can trust. Click the link in my show notes, betterhelp.com/Dr. Downey to get 10% off your first month. So you're suggesting having some kind of guide, whether it be a counselor, therapist,
yes,
rabbi, religious
from the beginning,
person,
not when things are hard, but the very beginning.
From the very beginning and throughout your relationship.
Yeah, that's what the Sunscreen Love is about. Sunscreen Love about how to build a passionate relationship, and it's based on two ideas. One is that women need to be loved and men need to be respected, and you have to know how to love your wife, and that's done through what I call the 4 A's: attention, affection, appreciation, and awareness.
Hence the flowers.
Hence the flowers, right? That's right, because that shows us some
flowers on a nothing day.
By the way,
getting flowers on a nothing day.
I'm writing a new book right now, and I for next year, and I really believe that people that talk the 5 love languages, and one love language is giving a gifts. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's a love language. I think it is compensation for lack of attention. Mm-hmm. And I mean, obviously, I think it's more important is like notes, little notes, or flowers. That's not really a gift. It's just it's not like jewelry. When you're buying your wife a jewelry or a car, it's probably because you're not paying attention. And you need to, you know what I'm saying? Like my wife and I, we buy nothing for each other. 24 years, we don't buy anything for each other because we don't need to. If she needs something, she goes and buys it.
I think the flowers were actually meant. There's a relative we have in the hospital, and I think the flowers were actually meant for them.
Oh no.
We decided to leave them in the house though for a day or two so that we could appreciate them. The worst thing you could ever do for me is if we get into an argument is buy me flowers. It's probably the worst thing you could do. And this is, I've had relationships where it was like that. And I would much rather just sit and have a conversation about it than have somebody buy a gift to get themselves out of the situation.
It's
terrible.
It's a cop out. It is. So what I say with time, anytime you want to get upset with your partner or spouse, I have a rule. It's called a 24-hour rule. It's not, it's not set in stone, but it means that when you are in a relationship and you want to say something to them that's going to be critical, I'm very much against criticism. That's what Sunscreen Love is about, is that you have to hold off what you're going to say and wait for a different time. So let me give you an example. I came home I'm an observant Jew, so on Saturday mornings I go to the shul and I come back around 10:30, and I usually take food out of the refrigerator and put it on this hot plate to warm up for lunch. And I came home late one morning, about an hour late, and my expectations were my wife, because she was at home, would put the food on the hot plate. And my reality did not meet my expectations. And I walk in. There's no food on the hot plate. We're about to have lunch soon. So of course, I wanted to say something. I'm like, why'd you put the food on the hot plate? And I said to myself, Daniel, don't say anything. Because no matter how I wrap it, no matter how sweet I say it, it's going to come across as criticism or come across as me attacking her. So, because when you think about it, what is this whole thing about? Hot chicken and rice. That was it. I'm not going to start an argument with my wife over chicken and rice. And this is true. This is so true. Most arguments in relationships are about the stupidest little things. And so I went in. I said, don't say a thing. I put the food on the hot plate. And about 4 days later, on a Wednesday night, I said to her, hey, if I happen to come back late on Saturday morning, do you mind putting the food in the hot plate? And it didn't come across as criticism because it wasn't in the moment. And this is why you have to think before you speak, because when you're in a relationship, when you're emotional, nothing good happens. If you've ever been yelled at or yelled at someone, does anything good happen from it?
No.
Nothing. In fact, when you're yelling, what are they doing? They're not listening to you. You know what they're doing? They're thinking of a response in their head. Yeah. This is what I tell people date. I remember I was in my early 20s. I couldn't get a second date. I said to my best friend, how come I can't get a second date? He said, stop talking and just listen. I said, what do you mean? He goes, listening is how relationships are formed. And it's no coincidence that the word heart, right? You want to capture someone's heart? The word heart had the word ear right in the middle of it. And people, especially men, are not such good listeners.
They might
you
be
probably know that
too.
Huh?
So not necessarily always listening, but always wanting to fix things too.
Well, that's our job. We like to share ideas and fix things. We like you've probably seen that video with the woman with a nail in her head. I have a headache. Take me out. Just listen to me. Listening is such an important part. I teach the men when I come home from work, or where they're coming home from, that they need to connect with their wives because we have different needs. Like I used to come home from work and want to sit on the couch and watch ESPN highlights and have a beer. My wife needs to talk to me, and I have to understand her needs. So I teach the men to come home and ask their wife 3 questions, and they have to sit there and listen for at least 15 seconds. No, they have to listen to them. And when the wife knows that the husband comes home to talk to her, she's going to have a better emotional connection with him, and she's going to have a better physical relationship with him. When she knows her husband listens.
What are these 3 questions?
Question number 1, what did you do today? And if you know something specific she did, like take the kid to the doctor to see you, or go to the spa, whatever it is. And number 2, it's funny because it doesn't seem to work the other way around if a woman works and the guy stays home. It's like a man, because it's different. Number 2 is, what are you thinking about? What's in your mind? And number 3, how do you feel? And as I said earlier, I talked about the pies in a relationship, PIE, physical, intellectual, emotional. What do you do today deals with our hands. It's physical. What are you thinking about is intellectual. And how do you feel is emotional. And you have to sit there and listen to them and engage with them without your phone. Yeah. And you'll find, even if most men rather not do this, it's not easy for us. Most men rather go out and mow the lawn. Some men rather have a colonoscopy. I understand it's difficult. But if your partner knows that you come out and do this at least, once a week or twice a week, it's going to change the relationship dynamic. Because women need to be loved, and that's how the love is shown. It's through the attention, affection, appreciation, and awareness.
And actually caring about what the answer is to those questions, not just standing there, letting the words pass through one ear into the other.
Oh, no, yeah, for sure.
But actually caring and engaging in conversation. So you mentioned that sometimes you have people in your lives, they're these emotional vampires.
Yes.
How do you recommend setting boundaries without feeling guilty for kicking that relative out of your life?
So here's the thing. What happened was we host a lot of people for Friday night dinners, and we had a woman that we were hosting a lot, and my wife was coaching her. She's divorced. She's 40 years old, and my wife was helping her for years and years and years. And I finally said to my wife, people aren't like dishwashers. You can't replace a heating element and expect them to work again. And she was putting in too much time, too much effort. And when she came to our meals, she was like taking over the conversation. It became draining. And when she'd leave, we were like, oh, thank God. And we also found this with people who are sometimes socially awkward. They drain us of energy. And I started recognizing this in my life as, you know what? There's a reason why I don't want them coming back. They drain me of energy. And I had to protect my happiness, my family's happiness. And so my wife came up with the idea of keepers. And how do you manage it? Obviously, if it's something, so we basically stopped having them. These people that drain us of energy, we keep away. They call us, hey, can we come for dinner? I'm like, yeah, when we're not home, you can come, right? So we had to control our own happiness. And if the person is a family member, which is very common, I mean, everyone has a family member that's an emotional vampire. And the reason why they're a separate category is because if your mom wasn't your mom, you might be best friends with her. Do you get my point? This came up when my daughters last year were fighting over a pair of shoes. They were 16 and 17 at the time. And thank God they get along great. And I said to them, if this wasn't your sister, if it was your best friend, this wouldn't be an argument. And they said, Dad, you're right. And you have to understand that those relationships with our siblings and our parents are so emotionally tight that it doesn't take much for it to blow up. So how do you deal with someone who's draining your energy? There's a number of different ways. What I call ESP, emotional separation and protection. So this happens to be if you have a parent who's a narcissist, or they drain you, or they talk to you. Like, hey, listen, we all have parents that just talk too much or get too much involved in our business. And so you have to redefine the word healthy. I know in families, especially Persian families or even Italian families, they have to be at each other's house every single week for a meal. And that's what they're used to. But if your family is draining you of energy, you have to redefine that word. It might mean you only see them once or twice a year. It might mean Zoom call once a week, or whatever that's going to be. And the separation and protection is what I call Rain-X. Rain-X is a chemical you put in your windshield of your car. You know what it is? And it keeps the rain off. You don't use your windshield. It's amazing. So you have to put your Rain-X on when you go into the situation. If it's really toxic, you have to go to places where you can get out of it very quickly, which means maybe not meet at their house, meet at a public place. And you might have to time box it also. Like, I'm only meeting you for half an hour, 45 minutes. But you have to control it. If you can't we all have people in our life like this, and you have to control it. If you don't, you're going to be emotionally wrecked. And I had issues in my life with someone close to me, a few people that are relatives, and I've had to manage it. But I have to be in control. I have to be in control of my happiness. I can't let them ruin my happiness.
And it's tough. And I have felt guilty because these people still want to be my friend, and they keep trying. They keep calling me, keep inviting me over to their house. And I can only come up with excuses for so long, for so many times. So I'll go to maybe every fifth meeting, every fifth invite. But still, I come home feeling drained, and I didn't really want to go to this dinner. And I don't know how to get rid of that guilt that I have.
I think the key is to understand that you have control of your life. No one else controls your life. And if you had someone who was harming you physically, you wouldn't go see them again, right? And even though it's not physical harm, it's an emotional harm, you have to learn to say no. And maybe at first find excuses, and eventually say, this is not a good relationship for me. I mean, it hurts people. But not every relationship is good for you. And you have to be in charge of it. And then when you start to take control of your life, you will be a much happier person. If that person, can't fit the 4 letters, kind, peaceful, empathetic, and respectful, they can be annoying sometimes. That's okay. You can manage that. But if they're narcissists, or they're overly dependent, or it's too much drama for you, or the common one I have is socially awkward. I just can't.
Can't do that one.
I'm like, and I tell people, I am not, like I tell my students, I am not here to be liked. I'm here to make you better, to make you great. All my life who have had Asperger's, and they've come out, they told me they have Asperger's, they've seen the therapist, and they're delightful. Are they my favorite people? No. But when they know they have it, they're able to compensate for being weird. Like, they know not to start their conversations with their top 10 Dungeons and Dragons games. They're not talking about at the dinner table, all the issues with almond milk. Like, they know they're weird, but they know how to navigate conversations where they're not so weird.
But when they're completely oblivious to something,
they're oblivious.
There's nothing.
These are all the guys. And for me, I see it's men, women too, but men in their 40s and 50s who are single. And I teach at singles events all the time, and there's a lot of men in their 40s, 50s, and 60s are just socially awkward. And by the way, I wrote a class called from swipe right to wedding night, how to make yourself irresistibly marriageable. And I talk about just simple things, how to start a conversation. Hi, my name is Daniel. What's yours? Where are you from? That kind of thing like that. And find something common in where you're from and start a conversation like that. And people have a hard time. I told them how to dress properly. Just, no dirt on your shirt. Make sure your hair is done. Make sure your teeth are clean. Make sure your breath doesn't smell. These simple things. This is the very beginning. And then I get into situations when you're at a mixed dinner with women and men. How not to slip your soup and make sure the key is here with men is to take responsibility. I teach women classes all the time. I'll say, I said, what do you think of a guy at a table and the host serves soup to everybody, the first course. And he stands up without being asked and goes and picks up all the soup bowls and brings them to the kitchen. And what do you think of him now? And they all say, he's 20% hotter, right? Because he did something. He took responsibility. And this is, I think, what women like is when men take responsibility without being asked. And this is why awareness in a spouse is so important, which means when I'm in my dining room and I hear my wife drop the lid of an olive oil, do you know what I do? I go into the kitchen and I pick it up for her. I don't ask. I just do it.
And not just on that first date. This is
no. This is my whole life. 24 years. 24 years. I'm 24 years married now. 24 years. I'm amazing. And the love I have for my wife now does not compare to 24 years ago. Everyone walking down the aisle thinks they're in love. And guess what? They might be. And love is easy then. But the longer you're married, the longer you have to work on that love. That's called taking that infatuation, lust, and desire and romancing it into love. If you don't romance it, if you don't work on a relationship, that's what Sunscreen Love does. You're going to burn.
Can someone who's an emotional vampire change? Or
yes,
can we learn to manage them?
Well, narcissists, no. Narcissists are probably not going to change. They don't admit they're narcissists. They can't see it. I'm talking about full NPD, narcissist personality disorder. It's unlikely they're going to change. Someone with narcissist tendencies, if they have the ability to see it, they can change. Personally, I have become a much better listener, much more patient. But I don't know if I was an emotional vampire. Maybe I talked too much. That was possible. One thing about talking too much is that you have to have the awareness when you're giving a story over or talking on a date, and the person you're talking to is bored out of their mind. And you have to be able to read clues, social clues, in order to say, maybe it's time I stop talking. Women like to talk a lot more than men. And we have to do a better job of listening.
It's a lot about awareness as well. Like, if I'm aware that I have some of these traits, then I can, change them a little bit. But it all starts with awareness. If you're completely unaware that you have anything going on, you're not going to change. You're not going to be able to be something for somebody else.
Yeah.
And nobody can force you to do anything.
Yeah.
You can't change other people. They need to recognize that there's a problem, and they need to recognize that something needs to be, that they're the only ones who can change.
Yeah, I jokingly say this. I say, if you want to have a great relationship, write a book on relationships, because it really clarifies what you want if you're married or dating, whatever it is, because no one really knows. And so I think writing the book for me has really changed my marriage. And that was good before. Now it's off the charts, because now I know how to deal with my wife. I know not to criticize. I know that, if I have to say something, I do it at a different time. I don't raise my voice. I don't yell anymore. I have a lot more patience. And I make sure that I show her attention, affection, appreciation, and have the awareness of her needs. So I know these things now. So I didn't know them 24 years ago. I had a decent marriage, but it wasn't great. It was like most people, just okay. But once you know how to do it, if you can make your wife happy, she's going to make you happy. That's a fact of life. The 3 facts of life: death, taxes, and happy wife, happy life. But you have to know what makes her happy. I put a lot on the men.
And that takes, it takes effort on your part to get to.
Oh, it's hard. No, it's hard work. Yeah. It's such raising kids. If you don't want to put in the hard work, don't get married. It's hard work. But if you put in the hard work, it's such pleasure. Listen, any pleasure in life takes pain. That's the way life works. People confuse pleasure and comfort. Lying on the beach, sipping a margarita is not pleasure, it's comfort. Playing in the Olympics is pleasure. Having a great relationship is pleasure. But those things take pain.
And when we walk down the aisle in our 20s, maybe we are a little bit unaware of what's going to happen in the future. but we all go down this path. It's all about learning and growing as time goes on, and we all have something to learn.
No, but you can learn it now in your 20s, not in your 50s. So I make sure I teach when I ask my students, okay, who wants to be in love? Everyone's hand goes up. Okay, someone tell me what love is. You know what I hear? Nothing. And I'm asking you, like, do you have a definition of love? Can you define it?
I don't know if I have a definition of it.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the problem.
I wouldn't know how to define it.
Right. So here is a number. So number one, we use love for many things. I love my kids. I love my dog. I love teaching, and I love my wife. So the word love gets kind of abused a little bit because it means a lot for many different things. It's interesting. The Inuit in northern Canada have 50 words for the word snow. It's the same word, but it's 50 different ways of saying it because there's different snows and there's different loves. So first thing I tell my students is that the feeling of being loved is wanting to give without getting anything in return. I love you because I want to give to you. But the definition of love is different. Because if you can't define love, you're going to confuse it with infatuation. And many people get married with infatuation, and that doesn't last. It's the emotional pleasure you feel when you focus on the virtues of another person, and you continue to associate them with those virtues. I mean, there's a reason why you fell in love. What happened to your marriage? Why is it going through stress, turbulence, or divorce? You stopped focusing on why you fell in love in the first place, and you started focusing on their negative characteristics. And everyone has them. Yeah. Everyone has negative characteristics.
That's an interesting.
So there's a reason why. Yeah, I mean, it's a great. I don't know if it's great, but it's like I fell in love with her for a reason, and this when she does things that annoy me, which does happen to everybody. I focus. That's not why I married her. I married her for other reasons. Okay, those things I can handle, right? And this is why I look at the definition of marriage as a merger of two souls. Because if you look at it as a partnership, you're going to lose. Once you start keeping score in a relationship, you're going to lose. So a partnership is I have an idea, you have the money, we go into business together, and we fail or we succeed, and I don't need you anymore. And then we get divorced because I don't need you anymore. People get married for kids, and you get married for kids, great. You know what happens in 20 years? Emptiness, divorce. Because your reason for marriage is just left the house.
I'm still stuck on this idea that when you start focusing about the negative things and you forget about the positive reasons why you fell in love with this person, that's when things really go off the rails. And it's
right.
True. You start to hyper focus on the negative.
Of course.
And those loving feelings that you once had drift away.
Yeah. And if you can't clarify why you're marrying somebody, why do I love this person? If they say, if you say, oh, because they make me happy, because they brought me out from a dark place, that's narcissism. If it's because I love their personality, I love the way that they laugh at my joke, then you have to. If you can't clarify why you love them, maybe you shouldn't be marrying them, right? And most people confuse infatuation and love because most people in today's world are in a physical relationship before they get married. And so what happens is the intellect goes out the window, and it's all an emotional decision. And most emotional decisions don't work out well. And this is why in the religious communities I come from, they don't touch. They don't have physical relationships before they get married because it creates. And this is why they have such low divorce rates because before they get married, they're marrying for intellect and not emotions. Mm-hmm. And then of course the emotions are going to come once they get married.
With time.
Yeah.
Does self-esteem play a role in either attracting or repelling toxic relationships?
Yes. So what self-esteem is the idea that having positive self-esteem means you love yourself for who you are without other people having to tell you. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people, and I hate to say this, it's more in the women. I think it's, in my opinion, more in the women when they have low self-esteem. And we all go through it. Every one of us.
Without needing that validation.
Yeah, validate. And this is why a lot of women, sleep with men all the time because they want validation. I need someone to love me. And what happens is men have easy access to physicality, so they don't get married. Why should they pay for the merchandise when they get it for free? And this is why we have married people getting married later. So if you don't love yourself, you're going to have a hard time loving somebody else. Because a lot of women, I hate to say this, a lot of women in their early 20s, they don't love themselves and they want to just look for a guy to get married. They marry a guy and the relationship falls apart. Because you have to love yourself. You have to have positive self-esteem before you can be in a proper relationship. And this is why I wrote the book, Never Feel in Love. I did a podcast on it one time. And I had a short that did 5.6 million views on TikTok. I didn't realize how big a deal it was, self-esteem. So I wrote the book, Never Feeling Loved Again. And I went through different strategies. First, to go through symptoms, things we do when we have low self-esteem, like fishing for compliments, dangerous behavior, procrastination. We do many things. I even put in there tattoos, bull nose rings, and plastic surgery. Plastic surgery is all from low self-esteem. That's all it is. I'm not happy with myself. I want to change myself, and it's very tempting because I even look in the mirror, have an elevator with mirror. I go, if I just go like this, I had like 20 years, and I never did this in my 40s or 50s. Now I turned 60. I do it all the time. I'm not doing it because I'm happy with who I am as a person, and it's obviously we try to hide our aging naturally is usually means you love yourself, who you are as a person, and that comes from strong self-esteem. And I believe, and the middle part of the book is based on recognizing how you affect other people's self-esteem. That when we do things, how we say things, by name dropping or the humble brag or posting on social media, we're doing it because we want attention to raise our self-esteem in the eyes of other people. Or when we go buy a fancy car, or we buy, listen, if you could buy a $10,000 Hermes purse or Louis Vuitton purse, and it could solve low self-esteem, therapists would be out of business. But the reason people do that is because they want to raise their value, they think they're raising the value in the eyes of other people, right? You can go out and buy a purse for $200. It's a nice purse, $300, $400, but $10,000, $20,000 over a purse is ridiculous. Mm-hmm. It makes no sense. It's just comes from areas of, and we all go through. I did it myself. I bought a Porsche in my late 20s. In fact, a lot of short Jewish guys do this. They lift a lot of weights and they go and buy a Porsche, right? They want to raise their self-esteem. They feel like that's going to raise their self-esteem. And in the end, it doesn't do anything for you.
And that puts you at risk of being in these toxic relationships.
Yes,
relationships that aren't healthy for you.
Because you find people that are validating you and showing you attention. Oh, they love me. Okay, I'll go in a relationship. Next thing you sleep with them. Then next thing you're comfortable. And comfortable doesn't mean good for you. Just because you're comfortable with them and and it feels good doesn't mean they should be the parent of your child. Or it's not going to be a long-term relationship. And I want to build passionate long-term relationships that last a lifetime.
It's more important to be in a healthy relationship, even though they might be far and few between, than having more relationships that might not be healthy. How do these dynamics play out in workplace relationships where you can't control who you're working with?
No, you can't. No. So it's different. So obviously if you have a boss that's a narcissist, it's really tough. And you have no choice at this point in time. So you have to, it's nuanced, obviously. Like, if there's, I always give the example, like when a guy at your office, hey, can you help me move on Sunday? And you help me move boxes. And he's on the phone the whole time with his girlfriend. And you're annoyed this guy, right? And we all have people that are annoyed. So sometimes it's better to be hands off and just keep work and personal. And this happens when you're single and you go to work. Your work becomes your social circle. You go to happy hours, you become friends with them, you start dating a guy in the office, and that's not always good. And, some people, who are married don't need that, hopefully, and can just keep work and family, and keep it separate. But every situation is different. So
for sure. Daniel, where can people find you?
So Coach Ratner, CoachRatner.com. If you go there, you'll have links to my books, links to my podcast, the Coach Ratner podcast, on Spotify, YouTube, Apple.
And you have your new book, Emotional Vampires, is coming out. By the time this airs, I think January 19th, your book comes out?
My book comes out January 13th as a paperback and ebook, but you can pre-order before that. And I also have Sunscreen Love, which is the 4 phases to find the love you want, which is real clarity on going to dating and going to marriage and how to have an awesome marriage. It talks about the needs of the woman and the man, and then Never Feeling Loved Again, symptoms and strategies to cure low self-esteem. And it gets into what we do when we have low self-esteem and really how to cure it and bring light into your life so you can go into a relationship and have an awesome, there's no reason that every relationship should not be awesome.
Well, it sounds like great books to read and very helpful for relationships, whether it's a romantic relationship, family relationships, friends.
Yeah.
There's always room for improvement, even though you feel like you're already in a great relationship. So I think these are all books that we should be reading. I'd love to have a really healthy relationship. Daniel, thank you so much for joining me today. I loved this conversation. It was a lot of fun. It was insightful and packed with so many takeaways that we can all start using right away. And
Yes.
I love your down-to-earth way of explaining boundaries and how to gain healthy relationships. So I really appreciate you sharing your wisdom with us.
My pleasure. Thank you. Thank you very much, Angela.
Thank you for spending time with us today. If this episode resonated with you, feel free to share it with a friend or anyone who could use a little bit of encouragement. The more these conversations spread, the more people that we can reach together. And if you'd like to stay connected, you can follow me. I'm most active on Facebook at The Codependent Doctor and on Instagram at Dr. Angela Downey. I would love to hear your thoughts, so don't be shy about leaving a comment or reaching out. I wish you all a great week as you learn to foster a better relationship with the most important person in your life, yourself. I'm going to talk to you again soon with another episode of The Codependent Doctor. Take care for now. You've got this. Thanks for spending time with me today. I hope something in this episode resonated with you. If it did, hit follow, subscribe, or share it with someone who needs to hear it today. The Codependent Doctor is not medical advice and doesn't replace speaking to your healthcare provider. If you're in a crisis, please go to the nearest ER or call 911 or reach out to your local mental health helpline. I'll be back here next week with more support, stories, and strategies because we're healing together. My new book, Enough As I Am, is finally here and it's available on Amazon. This is a healing workbook for anyone navigating people-pleasing, guilt, or self-abandonment. It's filled with practical tools to help you build boundaries and reclaim your self-worth. And I've also created a companion 365-day journal called Enough As I Grow, with daily prompts to guide you through your healing journey one day at a time. Enough As I Am and Enough As I Grow are both available on Amazon. The links are in the show notes.